Hey everybody, today I have the pleasure of interviewing Loris, the winner of our Trader of the Month contest for August. Loris won a gain of almost 7,000 euros and a return of around 23%. Right, Loris?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, that's an outstanding performance, especially considering that August is known as being sometimes a difficult month to trade the markets. You even had a really low drawdown of less than 4%, right?
Yes, that's right.
Perfect. For those of you who don't know, the Trader of the Month contest is a monthly contest for our students where the trader who achieves the best performance using the Unger method will be rewarded with a 1,000 euro Amazon voucher. I'm so glad you're here, Loris. Let's get started.
Okay.
First, I'd like to ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what are your hobbies.
Well, my name is Loris. I am 51 years old, and I'm a business consultant in the service sector. And I have two children, one of whom recently became an adult. I really enjoy playing and watching all sports, both popular and somewhat niche sports. And those include soccer, golf, and tennis.
So, very diversified, like.
Pretty varied and complicated, but like everyone, I guess, with some ups and downs.
Exactly. And what problem did you have before joining our program?
Well, I've always had a passion for the markets, for trading, and I try to do everything myself. So building a stock portfolio, buying and selling, but I didn't do it systematically. I played a little bit, let's say by ear, okay? And in the end, look, the results were never brilliant. On the contrary. And in fact, it was always quite complicated. You see, fortunately, I've always invested small amounts. But in short, as an engineer, and something I didn't mention earlier, I was well aware of the fact that you have to have a method, and that is extremely important. You must understand a little more and try to work with a method, and that's what I'm doing now, sticking to what Unger says.
Great. Thank you very much. And why did you choose our program and not as opposed to any other program out there?
Well, I wanted to start studying and learning a bit more about trading. So I started doing a little research online. I watched some interviews, read some articles. I bumped into some newspaper articles where Andrea Unger emphasized the idea that you can do it. That, yes, it can be complicated. And that is why you have to study and you have to be very careful. And in short, he said that you can't improvise. He never said things like, well, there are those people who brag about fabulous gains and percentages and so on. He's always very honest and very clear about what trading is and what can be achieved. And that is what caught my eye, and I decided to give it a try.
And after doing our program, is there anything that really helped you?
Oh, definitely, yes. You see, I started very intensively in March of this year, and partly because I enjoy it, and partly because I really wanted to do it. So I was able to take some time to dedicate to it, and I was very committed. For sure, having a technical background sped up my path quite a lot because, all these components that have to do with the infrastructure and the programming part for me were quite, well, I don't want to say simple, but for sure not too complex, let's say. So I was able to focus more on the trading aspects of the markets, how the markets move, and trying to understand those things first. And what I particularly liked, and what opened my eyes and really made a difference, is definitely the whole issue of money management and risk management, which is crucial to going down this path correctly without making big mistakes and causing too too much damage.
Yes, definitely.
And then, things go more or less well, or they go more or less badly. But if you do all the steps in a balanced way, you succeed in keeping everything under control.
Exactly. And speaking of results, besides the excellent performance you achieved in the month of August, which led you to win the Trader of the Month, after you started applying what you learned in the different modules of the program, what results did you see in general?
Well, look, I do have to say that I only started live trading recently. I started in July. And then I did this particularly brilliant August, which I'm sure also has a lot to do with luck. I'm working on micro futures because I don't have a lot of capital. And this is something that makes the percentages become even more impressive, yeah? I mean, I guess I was lucky, because when I started, I was working with a very unbalanced portfolio. It was mainly based on the Nasdaq and the stock indexes. And so my systems had done well on those markets, and well, that's how it worked. I mean, today, I'm trying to balance the portfolio, to diversify it, meaning that I'm trying to add more markets, as recommended in the training program. And this is a crucial step. And then I'll certainly feel much more comfortable. I have struggled a little bit more in September, and I am, quote unquote, staying afloat right now.
In a nutshell, let's say you had a good start, and
that's very encouraging.
Great. So an excellent start for you. And how has your life changed since you got your first positive results, not only financially, but also in terms of awareness?
Well, you said the right word, awareness, because now I'm working in a careful and methodical way. The things that are taught in the program, I can apply and implement them. And I can set up everything in the best way possible. And I'm also fighting myself because I'm still tempted to keep everything under control. So I'm tempted to do things like closing a position when I see it's going up. And this is the main challenge for me. Because you see, once the rules and the systems are in place, you can and must let them work for what they were intended for. And this is the most challenging thing for me right now.
To break away from the discretionary habits.
Yes, exactly. Always being there and checking things. Instead, you have to watch them and just let them go.
Where would you be now if you hadn't chosen to join our program?
Well, I definitely wouldn't have taken that step. I would have stayed with my traditional portfolios, with a buy and sell probably, only in the equity world, based on some classic indicators. Instead, hey, I have to say that using the method with this approach here definitely allows diversifying and working in a very different way. And it is certainly a way that is not easy, because I understand how difficult it can be to build an infrastructure. Yet still, I have to say that even those who may not be able to do it on their own, they are supported by the Academy in the right way.
Okay, thank you very much. And the last thing I want to ask you, what would you say to those who are watching this interview and maybe are still undecided about whether or not to join the program?
Well, I'd encourage people to give it a try, because the program is very well structured. Of course, there are some complicated things, so you must study to understand how these things work. But in general, I can say that the program is really well structured. And also because, hey, I love to study by my own. And this program, the way it's structured, allows me to do it when I have time. All the material is constantly available, so I can look at it and then look at it again and go back and forth, without any problems. And then there's this component that I haven't used yet, the coaching calls, which I think are very valuable because, well, they allow you to interact with the coaches and ask specific questions about issues that may be difficult for you at that moment. And to be honest, although I don't participate in the calls, I am using them a lot. In fact, all the sessions are recorded. So in the evening, I can go and see if there's a question that I might have asked and listen to the answer. So, yeah, I mean, I can say that I am definitely satisfied. And I recommend this program because it gives you a method. It gives you an approach and a lot of insights and ideas that you can then go on with.
Ah, great. So you also found the coaching call recordings archive helpful without having to participate, still finding the answers.
Yes, absolutely. It's really very useful. Then there's an Italian and an English version. So there's a lot of material. So I've seen that when I've had doubts, when I looked in the archives, I have always found an answer without having to ask a new question. You can definitely find a lot of helpful material there.
Great. I'm glad you found it very useful. Okay, thank you very much, Loris, and for your time today. And I wish you, as always, happy trading. And I hope to see you again. Maybe not in September, but if not in September, then...
Oh, no, probably not in September, but maybe later, I hope.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Loris.
Thank you, and thanks everyone.